Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to speak on the emergence of universal consciousness. Now, admittedly, that's a controversial topic. And it's a controversial topic because so far, universal consciousness has not been scientifically proven to be true. But this conception that things need to be scientifically proven in order for them to be true is itself false. And that's neatly demonstrated each and every time scientists discover something new, something that we didn't know before. Most recently, scientists are finding evidence for the Higgs boson. But if it's true that it exists, then it means it's existed for millions and millions of years. It's always been true. So I think the way to play a game of philosophical chess is to try and start with just one sentence that we can maybe agree upon, and then see if we can take it forward one step at a time until the next sentence just seems too improbable or too outlandish, and that's really where we should stop. By the end of this talk, you might agree or disagree with everything I say, and that's fine. If you should find yourself coming to agree for the first time that some of these concepts are possibly true, then that could change the way you possibly think about many things. So I'd like to start with a simple proposition, and one that is credited to Aristotle. The whole is something greater than the sum of its parts. Or put another way, everything that exists both as a whole unto itself, as well as a component of some greater holistic system. Now, there's a lot of evidence for this proposition. For example, we know that electrons are individually charged particles, but we also know that electrons are components of atoms. Atoms are components of molecules. Molecules are components of organisms. Organisms arise within systems and ecosystems. Ecosystems are located on planets. Planets are components of solar systems, and solar systems are components of galaxies, and galaxies components of universes. So it does seem that everything that exists both as a whole unto itself and as a component within a greater whole. Now, if that's true, then it suggests that your true holistic identity consists of both your narrow self-identity and your component identity within a greater system. And if you can come to accept that it is your narrow self-identity that is endowed with your self-consciousness, then you can at least begin to question whether the holistic system of which you're a component has holistic consciousness. And we'll come back to that question in a minute. But we need to start by discussing what do we mean by consciousness. There's no uniform scientifically accepted definition of the term consciousness. I think consciousness means the ability to sense or to respond to what you sense in your environment, whether it's your internal or your external environment. That's what I think consciousness is. Life is the organization of energy into form, and death is the liberation of energy from form and the reduction of a form back to its component states. We know that to endure, any form first needs an awareness of its environment, internal and external, in order to compensate for the changes taking place. The tendency of a form to compensate for change can be observed across a vast range of natural phenomena, and it's evidenced by the interplay between the second law of thermodynamics and what we call self-organizing dissipative systems. The second law of thermodynamics holds that for every process of energy transfer in a system, there is an increase in entropy in the system. That means that for every random event that takes place, the disorder of the system will increase. In other words, systems or forms need to be able to respond to this disorder in such a way that preserves their relative stability. Spiral shapes, such as can be seen on a number of different things, from a simple hermit crab shell to the shape of the Milky Way or Andromeda galaxies, are examples of the complex patterns and structures that can emerge during a process of dissipation to retain stability over periods, in particular, of rapid expansion. Now, organisms are, by definition, organized. And if we can see the organized properties of even very large systems, then it's only really culture that stops us from referring to very large systems as organisms. I believe that consciousness will emerge wherever and whenever complex organizing systems and forms emerge. But it will be a consciousness of a type that is relevant to that complex system or form. If consciousness plays a role in ensuring survival, then we should begin to question, what role does consciousness play in the process of evolution? Darwin argued that seemingly random genetic mutations that took place in genetic codes resulted in beneficial adaptations that thrived. But there is growing evidence to support the view that genetic mutations are environmentally responsive. For example, experiments by scientists such as Barry Hall have observed that the genetic rate of mutation in bacteria increases under environmentally stressful conditions. So, if genetic mutation is environmentally responsive, then it's not a very distinct process from what we regard as innovation. Because in both processes, it is the processing and feedback of information that results in the formation of something new. Enter social media and wearable tech, something we should expect to arise if the promotion of information networks in a system is going to enhance the ability of a system to communicate across different components of itself. Your social media stream might eventually evolve to become your externalized stream of consciousness that you choose to share with other people. This belief that we are all part of one thing is perfectly encapsulated by the Zulu word simunye, which means we are one. And this simunye hypothesis is one that is as old as philosophy. It suggests that humans should understand ourselves within this organism to be semi-autonomous, conscious measuring agents of a complex adaptive system that is constantly adjusting and responding and adapting. If the universe itself is, as science might ultimately prove, a complex dissipative system, then not only would the universe have consciousness, but that consciousness would be as old as time, and it would envelop all other forms of consciousness within it, including yours and mine. Thank you.